So what is secular morality? Where does it come from? How do we even define something like that? Recently, Sheldon Whitehouse, Democrat out of Rhode Island, was at the Senate Judiciary Committee, and he asked Attorney General Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III, that's his real name. He asked Jeff Sessions, if someone doesn't have the same religion as you, if they don't think like you, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but he said, can a judge still do their job, even if they are secular?
Well, no, and I use that word in the 90,000-foot level of a little concern I have that we as a nation, I believe, are reaching a level in which truth is not sufficiently respected, that the very ideal, the idea of truth is not believed to be real, and that all of life is just a matter of your perspective and my perspective, which I think is contrary to the American heritage. So that's just a kind of a criticism of mine. But we are not a theocracy. Nobody should be required to believe anything. I share Thomas Jefferson's words on the memorial over here. I swear eternal hostility over any domination of the mind of man. And I think we should respect people's views and not demand any kind of religious test for holding office.
And a secular person has just as good a claim to understanding the truth as a person who is religious, correct?
Well, I'm not sure. In what method? Is it less objectively committed to...
the methods that an attorney would bring to bear.
Well, let me just say, we're going to treat anybody with different views fairly and objectively. And the ideal of truth and trying to achieve the right solution, to me, is an important goal of the American jurisdiction.
Well, I'm not sure. That's his answer. See the smirk? His little smirk he had? You see the guy in the background watching him? He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Now that little smirk, he thinks he's being cute. He thinks it's cute to be bigoted. And it's funny how each time the White House was asking him these questions, he keeps flip-flopping. He keeps flip-flopping because he knows what he's saying is completely unconstitutional. It's completely un-American. It would be the same as saying a Muslim can't do his job because he's Muslim, or a Christian can't do his job because he's Christian. Secularism is just as much supported by the First Amendment as any religion, even if it's the lack thereof. You have the freedom of religion. You also have the freedom from religion. Imagine if he had said that about a race. Imagine if Donald Trump had said that a judge couldn't do his job because he's of Hispanic heritage, which is exactly what he said. That's what this administration believes in. They believe in bigotry and racism. And this next clip, it's a little long, bear with it. Tried to cut it down as much as I could. But he's not cute this time. He's very direct this time when he's talking about Sotomayor. And there's no smirk. There's no fun. It's just Jeff Sessions and exactly how he feels about people like me.
Quote, no objective stance, but a series of perspectives. That still makes a hair stand up on the back of my neck. A judge to say there is no objectivity, just a series of perspectives. And that the aspiration to impartiality is just that, an aspiration. You see, this is a postmodern, relativistic, secular mindset. And I believe it's directly contrary to the founding of our republic. So I really think this whole court system is really important. And the real value and battle that we're engaged in here is one to reaffirm that there is objective truth. It's not all relative. And that means some things are right and some things are wrong. And we're getting too far away from that, in my opinion. It's not healthy for any country, and it's really not healthy for a democracy like ours that's built on the rule of law.
So here he's saying there's an objective truth on one side and the relativistic secular version of truth on the other side. He's saying right and wrong is on the objective end, and just moral relativity. And in other words, anything can change at any time morally. There's no real strong standard. He's trying to delve into the philosophical realm. In the last video you saw, he was cute about it because he was being pinpointed on exactly what he had to say, and his only defense was to try to play the cutesy card. This time, nobody's interrupting him, nobody's questioning him. He's at a faith-based organization, and they're only going to applaud him whenever he says something bigoted about other faiths or other points of view or other world concepts. So, and this time he says, let me explain to you why we are superior morally. And he needs to stay in his own yard because he does not understand philosophy. Relativism is synonymous with subjective morality. We get our morals from our own selves, the subject of ourselves. And that makes it something that can change at any time. And that's why it is relative. It's true that we all have subjective morality. We also have objective morality. But it's not in the sense that he means. The objective morality that he's referring to is saying it's objective, therefore it's outside of man. It's coming from this divine source, which he has magic thinking powers and can imagine the Holy Spirit in his head and communicate with him and talk to him. And therefore can access his morality. Or he could use his very old book from the Bronze Age to understand objective morality. Or he can say it's written on our hearts. God already gave it to us. Well, if that were the case, it wouldn't really be all different from what he's condemning, would it? No, the problem with his version of objective morality is that it's not objective morality. It actually is moral relativism to believe that you get your morals from a God. The secularists, at least those of us that believe in moral objectivity, there are those that don't. There's going to be some secular groups out there that believe in moral relativism. They're just wrong. Pretty simple. We can have that discussion. Comment below the video if you want. Hit me up on Facebook or Twitter. You can even contact me at therighttoreason.com. But we'll have that discussion another day. Moral objectivity actually comes from all of us acknowledging that there is a way to get to human flourishing in the most efficient manner. I'll give you an example if that seems like I'm not making sense to you. So you got a chess game, we're playing chess. If I decide I'm going to do the rules my own way and play the chess game my own way, I'm saying that there is a subjective set of rules about this. I have my rules, you have your rules. And whenever I don't follow the objective, the agreed upon, the already existing, whether we played the game or not, chess has rules. We don't have to be on either side of this board for there to be chess rules. In the same way that no matter what we think subjectively, there is an ultimate best way to meet human flourishing, and there is an objective truth and morals. Therefore, if I were to have my subjective chess rules and started playing, you would immediately call me a cheater. And that's why we get upset at someone when they do something wrong, when we see something that's obviously immoral or unethical, and we say, that makes me angry. Well, that's because you're feeling the same thing you would feel toward someone that was cheating in a game. It's the same part of your brain getting activated. this person is cheating at what we objectively feel. And we can disagree about that, but that would be subjective. It wouldn't necessarily be the best way. Now, how do we access this information? How do we find out? Well, you don't use a Bronze Age book. Getting your morals from the Bible would be the worst place to get your morals, as with the Quran and many other religious texts. These people hadn't figured out morality to the same extent that we have today, and we're not doing a very good job of it, granted. But we've still evolved as a society to figure out things right and wrong in a much better way than those people that wrote those classic religious texts did. The issue with what he's claiming, the reason I say he's not claiming objective morality, and some apologists might even use the term absolute morality. They're essentially trying to say the same thing, and they're both wrong. Objective morality can't come from one source, because having it come from one source is subjective. And therefore, if he changes his mind, it is relative to his whim. You say, well, God wouldn't do that. Well, he kind of did, didn't he? Genocide, rape, slavery, these were things that were completely okay in the past. But then he sends his son to die, and the old laws passed away. You say, well, he never changed his mind. He always planned on doing something different. Well, just because I intend to change my mind later doesn't mean that the rules didn't change. You see? So, think of it this way. If I say, I am Robert, and I have a certain set of moral rules that I follow, and you say, well, where do you get those rules? I say, well, they come from myself. You say, well, that's obviously subjectivism. That's an easy one. Scenario 2. You say, where do you get your morals, Robert? Well, I have a certain set of rules that I follow morally, and I get those from Bob. Now, who's Bob? You don't know Bob? Bob's the guy that tells me what's right and wrong. All right, so that's still subjective morality. It's just Bob's subjectivity that we're dealing with. In the same sense, follow the analogy to if you're getting it from a higher power or a god or some kind of deity. Well, this person can arbitrarily change their mind and change the rules. You say, well, no, God can't, because God always does what's right. Well, then he's appealing to a higher form of morality. And if he's appealing to this higher form of morality, and we're appealing to this higher form of morality, why do we need God to be moral? We're all appealing to this thing, and that thing's actually supreme, not God. If you're familiar with this argument, you'll recognize it as the Euthyphro dilemma. The issue is, if they tackle one horn of the argument and say, well, we get our morals from God, God is the one that makes the morals, they're immediately falling into divine command theory, and they're screwed, because that would mean morality is arbitrary. He can change it at any time, and has very much in his text. If he appeals to some other form of morality, then we don't need him. So that's the problem with this kind of thinking, and that's why a religious person does not believe in objective morality, and that they are moral relativists. What happens when you allow this kind of thinking to continue? What happens whenever you think that morals can be relative? Wouldn't that cause you to do some things that are wrong? In this next clip, it's a much shorter one, we're going to find out exactly what this kind of morality leads to, as opposed to secular morality. Also, if you were seeing the guy in the back in the last video, watch the guy in the back this time, because it's pretty funny. Anyway, here we go.